What's up, y'all? Dave here. May 1st, 2013. 3 years after I filmed what it is that you guys have been watching. I've been getting a lot of requests for some updates and where you at, what have you been doing with yourself, where you going, what'd you accomplish, what'd you figure out, what'd you find. And quite honestly, I've sat down here at the river for about 2.5 hours trying to hit play, or trying to hit record, and it's been pretty difficult to do. I have not filmed I did another trip last year that unfortunately I dropped my camera in the water, so I was unable to finish the project, but lost a lot of video and it just kind of turned into a debacle, so I did not finish. But have not looked into a camera and talked in, at least a year, but a couple years, let's say. So first thing is I wanted to thank each and every one of you in one way or another for viewing and for subscribing. I put this up there kind of arbitrarily about 6 months ago, and when I put it up, I did not put tags, I did not put keywords, I didn't put descriptions, and quite honestly, since my trip, obviously I had a lot of people think that I was quote-unquote crazy for doing what it was that I did, and about 6 months ago I found myself in a hotel room and kind of believing in that and kind of buying into what it was that other people were saying, and I decided to kind of arbitrarily throw it up on YouTube just to get strangers' perspective of what it was that I was doing or what it was that I'd done. And to be honest with you, it really kind of blew my mind. I was pleasantly surprised at how much encouragement, how much support, people using words like proud of you and inspirational, and I wish I could do the things that you have done, and coming from my immediate circle, having people deem me as really outside of the box / crazy, it was really refreshing to have some encouragement and some support from complete strangers. I've had people invite me to dinner. I've had people say, hey, what part of the country are you in? If you ever get to this part of the country, give us a call, we'd like to feed you, and you seem like a great guy, and what it is that you're doing is an exciting thing. So obviously that's kind of built some confidence, and it's kind of reassured what it is that I did, and I wanted to kind of clarify a couple of things, because when I went out and did what I did 3 years ago, I didn't plan on filming any documentary. I didn't plan on filming for the purpose of showing it to the public. And a couple of days before I took off, a buddy of mine asked me, hey, what's going to be your Wilson? I'm like, what are you talking about, Wilson? He says, the movie Castaway, the guy had the volleyball and he talked to the volleyball all the time. What are you going to do? And I've written my whole life, I've journaled my whole life. I used to carry around a micro cassette recorder to record my thoughts, and video camera just kind of felt like the natural progression. So I ended up bringing a camera with me, and within a couple of days I kind of realized that, wow, this might be exciting. Once this process is done, no matter where it takes me, no matter what I accomplish, even if I just sit out here and do nothing, once the package was complete, I figured that it might be kind of interesting and preferably beneficial for other people to watch, not because I'm making any major strides or leaps and bounds or accomplishing a lot, but just to allow other people to watch the process of being honest with oneself and doing what a person believes is right for themselves at any and all costs. And it's going to be very difficult. I'm probably going to jump around a whole lot, and it's probably going to be a complete pain in the ass to watch this, like everything else, because I have a tendency to ramble and get a little off topic. But the long and the short of it is typical broken home. I was raised in a very poor environment, and my dad planted in my head at a very early age that money was the answer to everything. And from the time I was about 12 years old on, I was very successful at generating an income. And by the time I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I realized that it wasn't filling the voids, and it wasn't making me happy, and it wasn't satisfying what it is that I wanted for my life and the life of the people around me. And instead of being strong enough and mature enough and responsible enough to start making wise choices with my money, numerous times in my life I just kind of more or less packed up and walked away. And the book title that I'm most proud of, that I've written and rewritten since I was 17 years old, the original title was Dave Got A, The Right Way. When I was 17, thought I had all the answers, thought everything around me was crazy, and I was the only one who was sane. had a business venture when I was 24, 25, 26 that tanked, cost me and my family a lot financially and emotionally and in every way possible. And I rewrote the book and changed the title to Dave Got A the Wrong Way. And I finally exercised some humility and found, that not only did I not have all the answers, but life is about gathering answers and being humble and learning from one's mistakes. So, um, excuse me, I still spit, still smoke weed, still cuss a lot, and say a lot. The final title for the book that I've been working on for the last 5 years has been entitled Learn from My Mistakes. A rugged picture of me, black and white, and the tagline underneath it is you don't have enough time to make them all on your own. And quite honestly, I've read about every self-help book that's out there. There's something that I've always struggled with in my life, and that's somebody telling you what you have to do or what you got to do. I do not like when somebody says in any context, oh, all you got to do is this, because number one, I don't got to do anything, and number two, if you want to encourage and motivate somebody, telling them exactly what to do or how to do it is not the way. And I've learned over time that in my experience, the best way that I learn is to watch somebody else learn and struggle and fail and fall and stumble and try to get back up again. So the book that I've finalized and that I've rewritten 10 different times in my life that I'm completely satisfied with now is Learn from My Mistakes. You don't have enough time to make them all on your own. And it's a complete tell-all, in the self-help realm, but it's a complete tell-all of all the things that I've done, had done to me, did to others, the shitty reasons and thoughts and feelings behind all those, and what it is I do in my life today to make sure it doesn't happen again and that I don't repeat it. So the trip that I did 3 years ago that you guys are watching, it really kind of came out of complete utter necessity. My father had passed away a couple of years earlier. The economy had completely collapsed, and I was in a mortgage business for the last 10 years, making money hand over fist, thinking I had all the answers. Once again, spent half my day at the pool, spent my evenings at the poker room, and in and out of massage parlors in between to make myself feel better. And not only was I disgusted and disturbed with that as my choices, but I kind of got stuck in that proverbial rut of, well, I can't do anything different, or, I'm not strong enough and whatever. So I had previously made a lot of choices that had taken me away from my friends, away from my family. I've had a tendency to pack up and move on, and a lot of people thought that that was me running away. And it was me running away in hopes of running towards something, but the bulk of the reason behind every one of my departures was that I didn't want other people to have to watch me, quote unquote, kill myself. I knew that I was at a place in my life that I was struggling with figuring out where the sidewalk ends and the road begins, figuring out where my childhood and my adolescence ended and my adulthood began. And coming out of the environment that I came out of as a child, I didn't have a lot of sharp tools. I didn't have a lot of experience with functional, productive relationships, with seeing productive examples of employment, seeing productive examples of holding hands or love or discussion or compassion and understanding. And it deeply confused me. Not only did it deeply confuse me, but it really depressed me and broke my heart that I knew better, but because of the lack of tools and the lack of fundamentals, I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know how to be who it was that I wanted to be. So my solution, which turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes of my life, my solution was turn tail and run. My solution was that if I was not strong enough and wise enough and mature enough to seek the help that I needed or to make the changes that I needed, at the very least I was not going to harm the people around me. And I did not harm them by making them watch me struggle, but I did harm them by taking myself away from them. And the perfect storm I refer to a lot in my life recently is I make one choice because I think it's the right thing to do for other people and for myself, and then it ends up backfiring on me, but it takes me further away from what it is I wanted to accomplish in life. So the trip that I did 3 years ago, quite honestly, I'm going to kind of torture you a little bit because I'm going to allude to something, but I'm not going to go into it right now. About 6 years ago, I found myself at a place where I couldn't justify my behavior. I had gone too far. I had removed myself too far away from a functioning, productive society that I couldn't justify who I was and how I was. And I kind of made up, consciously made up some lies to justify who I was and how I was. And those had surfaced right after my dad passed, and those had surfaced right after I'd returned up to Washington from Vegas. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise because the way it surfaced, it afforded me the opportunity to face it with the people that it affected. But inside my heart, not unlike the failure of the business and the bar back in my 20s, um, in my heart, I knew that it was the right thing to do to face these things and to cleanse my soul of these things, but it scared the hell out of me because I thought that I could never fix it. I thought that I could never go back and mop up that mess. From the time I was 26 years old and the failure of the bar, I'd been living in guilt and embarrassment for years and years, and most of that is mine, but some of the people that were involved in that venture kind of let me hold the bag and left me more or less for dead, and that deeply, deeply affected me, broke my heart, and I never saw that I could in any way, shape, or form redeem myself from that event, and I literally spent the next 15 years punishing myself. Well, it all culminated a couple years after my dad died. I'd spent a year down in Las Vegas just licking my wounds, and I decided I wanted to be part of the family, and it was time to come back, and it was time to try to actively participate in my own happiness. And if these were things that were important to me that I wanted, I had to face them, and I had to go back and do the things that I hadn't done, and be around and be part of the team again. Well, when I got back, I quickly realized that I'd been gone so long, and I'd been doing other things, and I'd been self-medicating, and I'd been learning and growing and evolving and becoming more honest and becoming more open and becoming more practical minded, that I quickly realized that I got a dog running over here. Probably means there's people, which means I'm probably going to stop talking. But I quickly realized after I came back, in as little as 2 weeks, I realized that maybe I had gone too far, that maybe I had pulled away for so long and so far that, damn it, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say nothing and do nothing for this dog when this guy walks by. How you doing?
Crazy dog.
I wish I had that kind of energy again. So, punchline being is when I came back from Las Vegas, it only took about 2 weeks for me to realize that not only had I learned and grown and changed and evolved and been in this pursuit of honesty and dug deep in my soul, but I had kind of went too deep. I had kind of went too inward, and my social skills were something left something to be desired. I'd been gone for so long that the evolution of the family had changed, and the dynamic of the family had changed so much that I really didn't fit. And some things were being said, and I was hearing stuff through the grapevines about things that had been said over the years. And since my dad had passed away, my dad really, I didn't know this, but my dad had kind of played the buffer between the North and the South. And when I came back after he had passed, that buffer was gone. And a lot of things coming through the grapevine, and it really, again, it really broke my heart, and it really made me realize that, man, I may have gone so far and changed so much, and I'm not even saying changed to the good, but I may have changed so much that I may not be able to return. And this lie that, these lies that I had told, um, one way or another came back to haunt me. And I immediately jumped on a bandwagon and went and mopped it up with the people that it affected. I sat them down and explained it to them, and obviously the things that we're talking about are kind of unexplainable. You can't really justify it, but I did my best, and we made peace with it as much as we could. And quite honestly, my mom and my sister both expressed, fuck dude, no big deal. It is what it is. We've all done stupid shit. I understand where you're coming from, and we forgive you. But I couldn't forgive myself. And about 3 days later, I found myself in my condo, losing everything. I hadn't worked in weeks, and I owed 3 months worth of rent, and was staring down the barrel of an eviction. And I'd sold my couch and my end tables and whatnot to try to make rent. And I just kind of found myself in a corner. And that corner mutated into finding myself in a bathtub with a gun in my mouth. And I've had a couple of experiences in my life that really, really changed me, were were significant events that were suicide related where I had, one particular event was sitting on a cliff up at Crown Point in the gorge, and I was contemplating jumping off, and I was drinking beers and throwing beer bottles off, and I couldn't hear them hit the ground, and I was morbidly thinking to myself that if I threw a beer bottle a second before I jumped, could I hear the bottle? Could I focus my attention on the bottle and hear the bottle before I hit the ground? And it would occupy my thought on the way down. And I heard a critter, a raccoon or a possum or something in the bushes. It scared the shit out of me. I laid back on the ground and peeled myself back off the cliff, and all I could remember thinking about was, please God, don't let me fall. And that day, 26, 27 years old, after the bar, I'd finally, for the first time in 27 years, made the decision that I didn't want to die. Well, from 27 to 35, that got me through the next 10, 12, 15 years. Another event happened down in Las Vegas right before I decided to come back, that somebody had squealed into a street down the street from my house and had shot a guy. And I had heard it. I was sitting on my porch, and the guy, they were screaming and yelling and hooping and hollering, and I, for whatever the reason, made my way out of my driveway and out into the middle of the street, and I begged and pleaded with this person to, not kill me. And in my begging and in my pleading, I had put together the words, just let me live. I just want to live. Please take whatever you need. The guy was in my house. I missed that part, but he had jumped the wall and made his way to my house, and I saw it, and I begged and pleaded with the guy, and I told him, go walk down the street. I don't care what you do. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm not going to tell anybody anything. My money, my weed, everything is in the house. You can have whatever you want. Just get the hell out of here. Please, I just want to live. And 3 days later, I was in my car driving back here. And when I got back here, quickly realized that, kind of really didn't fit. And shortly thereafter, found myself with a gun in my mouth. And not unlike the first two experiences, when I prepared myself for my impending suicide, I planned it out. I wrote my letter. I made my apologies. I sat in a bathtub because I figured it was not anybody else's mess to clean up but my own. And the second, it sounds cheesy to even say it, but the second the cold steel hit my lips, I knew, what the hell am I doing? There's no way I'm giving up. There's no way I'm done fighting the fight. And sure, I've occupied a lot of time in the name of fighting the fight, but I never really fought the fight. So I decided, as I put the gun down on the side of the tub, I decided I'm not done yet. I'm not done. There's no way in hell that I'm checking out like this if I haven't exhausted all my resources. And the only logical thing I could think of was I was staring down the barrel of losing my place. I was staring down the barrel of being homeless. I was staring down the barrel of losing everything once again. And I decided to embrace that. I decided what better way to figure out whether you want to live or die than to put yourself in a life-threatening situation. So I sold everything I owned. I gave away everything I had. I spent about a month preparing this trip. I talked to my buddy Rich, and we both agreed that he would take me up, drop me off. He'd come back every 2 weeks to resupply me. It was not about facing the elements and living off the land. It was about one man's journey to the center of his soul. And we agreed that that was going to happen, and he dropped me off, and he showed up a week early and brought me some licorice and some socks and was all worried about me because of the fact that it had rained for that 7 days straight. He never thought I was going to make it to begin with, and he came up worried about me. We were up on a bluff cutting some wood, and I had made a comment about something that was in his past, and he had made a comment that he had made peace with it, and I had made a comment, how the hell can you make peace with it? It's not for you to make peace with, it's for the other person to make peace with. What it is that we're talking about, you had done, and it's not possible for you to make peace with something unless you own it and face it and try to go back and fix it. And that was the last day I saw him. And he more or less left me for dead in the woods. Now, I cried about it. I freaked out. I panicked. I let other people and other influences affect my trip and affect my journey. And I deeply regret that, or wish that it hadn't happened that way. But once again, it's all part of the process, and it's who I am, and it's how I handle things. So I'm not going to beat myself up. So with that said, about 40 days in, I met Thomas, and an event had happened where he had came into my camp, and I couldn't find my camera. I'd asked him where the camera was. He said he hadn't seen it. He jumped up, started stripping his clothes off, And I quickly realized something more important than my camera is taking place here. So I sat him down. We didn't find the camera at that point. I sat him down and we discussed what it was that had happened and what it was in his life that had happened that had affected him and impacted him to the point where he felt that he needed to take his clothes off to prove that he hadn't stolen something. And somebody else is walking by. Um, I had no idea, but what was taking place is how you doing?
Hi.
How are you, sweetie pie? Pretty day today, isn't it?
It's getting there.
Almost as pretty as you are. Enjoy your day. So I had quickly realized, like I said, there was something that was going on that I couldn't put my finger on. And through conversation, after a couple of minutes, I had realized that he had just got out of prison. And he had spent 6 years in prison for something that he more or less didn't do. I'm not going to go into that because it's his business, not mine. But for some reason, subconsciously, we had spent 3 or 4 hours continuing to talk that night. And after he left, I started just talking to the camera like I'm doing now and like I did out there. And I realized that he spent 6.5 years in prison, and it affected him to the point where when somebody asked him a question, he took his clothes off to prove his point. And I somehow made the connection of some of my issues in childhood and being raised Catholic, honor thy mother and thy father, to blame somebody or put responsibility on somebody else for your own actions was not something that we did. And I had never really allowed myself to connect the dots between my childhood and how it affected me. And y'all saw the video entitled Breakthrough. I found some anger and some hurt and some disappointment in me towards my father because of the things that he had done that I didn't know existed. And once that came out, I have to be completely honest and say that once that came out, it was almost enough. It was almost enough just to have made that accomplishment and to made that connection. In the video, in the process, in this breakthrough, I forgive my father for anything and everything because I am my father's son. If it wasn't for my dad getting married at the age that he did and having kids at the age that he did, he would probably be right where I'm at, still trying to figure it all out. And if I had gotten married at 24 years old and had a couple kids, I would probably have done the same thing because he didn't have the opportunity to figure the things out like I did. And when you get married and caught up in doing your thing, and then some issues from childhood come up, you don't know how to handle them. You don't know what to do with them, and that's how my father lived his life. And my father was identical to me. He was completely optimistic and positive and moral and ethical and had a strong character. But when it came to matters of the heart, when it came to emotion, he was broken, and we all paid the price for that. And so when I realized that stuff that was inside of me, and I threw my proverbial hissy fit and yelled and screamed at my dad and processed through those emotions and forgave him and understood him and made the connection that he wasn't my father in this dynamic, he was a person, it cleansed my soul of the guilt and the hate and the discontent and the depression and the anger that I'd lived with my whole life. And literally overnight, it was gone. And because I had made such a significant accomplishment and made such a big change, I rested on that. I laid down on that. I said to myself subconsciously, well, we're happy now and we're not angry anymore and we're not mad and now we can process through these feelings. But I never went back and did what I originally planned to do. And that was to face these lies, to face these things that I had done that had broken my heart so much that I saw it as something that I could never come back from. So for the next 2 months, which is about where you guys are at in the process right now, for the next 2 months I just fished. I just enjoyed my life. I just enjoyed my freedom of not being riddled with guilt and hate and anger and discontent. And I started the process of trying to decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And once again, I spent the next 2 months fishing like a fool, laying in the sun, having a good damn time, being positive and encouraging to the people that I met, being thankful, being honest, being open. When I, said I didn't have any cigarettes, when I really did, I went back and owned those things and started accepting responsibility for my behavior and how I played basically sustained at that. And in the back of my mind, I always knew that I had this subject that I needed to get off my chest and I needed to face, but I was too scared. And I was too afraid that because I was filming and because I was planning on hopefully letting people see this in the future, I was afraid of what people would think of me. And I got caught back underneath that umbrella of fear. And so when I came back, finished my trip, found myself when you get to the final, days of that journey, I accomplished amazing things. I cleansed my soul of a lot of guilt, a lot of hate, and a lot of anger, and a lot of discontent, and a lot of hurt. But I still had this thing in the back of my mind. And I came back, and because I'd sold everything, I found myself back at my sister's house. And once again, quickly realized that we had been away for so long and things had changed so much that it was not the best place for me to be. So about a month after I got there, I decided that I needed to go again, and I needed to do what was right for me, and I needed to start chasing my dreams, and I needed to pursue my writing, my lyrics, this documentary, and I needed to start putting myself out there and taking some leaps and actively participating in my own happiness. And I knew that in order to be any good for anybody else, I had to do what was right for me first. So I went out and I had some connections with a television show on Discovery Channel called Gold Rush, and I found myself in a pretty deep, in-depth conversation with them, and they were making some pretty serious, significant offers for the documentary. They wanted to do a show, they wanted to do some different things, and I got scared, and I bailed, and I burnt every one of those bridges, and I now, a couple of months after returning, I had everything in front of me that I wanted, but I was still afraid. I was afraid of doing it alone and doing it for the wrong reasons. I was afraid of generating income again in a significant amount that would make friends and family come back and like me again, because that's typical, that's what happens. But on the other side, I hadn't dealt with this subject yet. And they were interested in my book, they were interested in me as a person, and I felt as though I was living a lie. So I put my nose to the grindstone and went back grinding out, freaking side jobs and trying to make as much money as I could here and there. And I planned a trip for this last summer that was going to be my coming out party. And I saved up about $12,000, bought some amazing cameras, some wireless mics, new laptops, I had an amazing, amazing, amazing raft trip plan. And I didn't want to be stuck in one place. I wanted to be mobile. I wanted to be moving. I wanted to be active. I wanted to be living. So I planned a 750-mile raft trip through Oregon, through Washington, and out to the coast. And had accomplished everything that I needed to make this trip. And June 1st was my departure date. And the last piece of the puzzle was a little puppy. And I regretted the first trip not taking a dog with me, but I didn't want to take a dog because I didn't know where I was going to end up. I didn't know where I was going to be. I didn't know what I was going to do when I returned. And I thought it would be unfair to live a life with a dog for 3 or 4 months out in the wilderness and then come back and lock him up in an apartment or, not be in a place where I could take care of him. So I felt it was irresponsible for me to take a dog on the first trip. So the second trip, 12 grand worth of stuff laying in the backyard, completely mocked up, 9 dams I'm going through, got permission to do it, got everything I need to do it. An amazing, 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 exciting trip. And 2 weeks before my departure, mid-May, I bought a black lab puppy off of Craigslist and met a woman over at Petco, and cutest little guy in the world crawled right into my lap, and it was obvious that he had picked me. And I paid the woman, picked him up, took him into the store. We bought life jackets and backpacks, and he was going to pack his own crap, and just an amazing little guy. And put him in my arms. We're driving down the freeway, heading back to the house, and it's the last piece of the puzzle. I've got all my money set aside to do the trip. I'm ready to go. I've got my ride. I'm getting dropped off in 2 weeks. I'm going to hang out with the dog and kind of roughly potty train him and acclimate him to the other dogs in the house. And I'm going to head off in 2 weeks. Well, we went and got shots the next day. That night he started throwing up. And went to the vet, and they had told me that he probably had an adverse reaction to the shots. Well, long story short, 2 weeks later and $2,200 later, he was finally diagnosed with parvo. And back up a little bit, I'm heading home from Petco, picking the dog up. He's in my arms and driving down the freeway, and I'm just talking to him and just communicating with my new friend and letting him know that we're going to go do it, man. We're sick of living in fear. We're not going to hide. We're not going to bury our head in the sand. If we want a life, we have to participate in it, and you get out what you put in. So I'm prepared. Let's do this. Let's take our chance. And I looked down at him and I said, you know what? That's going to be your name. Now at this point, I didn't know there was a dog in the movies that his name was Chance. I thought it was an original name and it was cool. So my dog became Chance. And quickly he became Little Chancey the Super Dog, because even when he was throwing up in the first couple days, he would jump up out of bed and run for the sliding glass door. And I thought he was potty trained already, magically. And he was running outside to throw up. And it broke my heart. And the guy was such a little special dude that 2.5 weeks later, went to the vet, and the vet told me, we're not going to be able to save him. We got to put him down. And I've seen how dogs get euthanized, and it's a very traumatic experience for the animal, and I didn't feel right about that. So I called Thomas and I told him, I got to put him down, and I'm not ready to do it, but I want you to come with me. Let's head up to my original camp that we filmed the doc at 2 years ago, and let me make peace with it, and let's put him down. And it broke my heart. It literally broke my heart. And in the process of getting him in and out of the vets and the money that I spent, I had basically spent all my trip money trying to keep him alive. And then I realized I wasn't going to be able to make the trip at the deadline that I wanted, so I had to pay another month's worth of rent, so that took more money out. Had to get some more work to try to make up for it, and before I knew it, there was no way I was going to be able to take my trip. And this whole trip was about coming out, setting up a camera just like this, dumping these couple lies, and moving past it. And him and I trekking down the river, fishing, and having a good old time, and learning to live our life, and learning to be open and honest, and completely cleanse ourselves of this final thing so I can move forward in my life and do what it is that I wanted for myself and the people around me. And when he died, I kind of died with him again, and it literally, completely, utterly broke my heart. So I pieced together some more money, and I sold a couple of cameras, and I sold this, and I sold that, and I sold the big raft, and I bought this little pontoon boat, and I had Thomas take me out and dump me off on Swift Reservoir, which is up in the northwest. And 2 days after I got all my shit across the lake, Warehouser comes in and says, hey, you know, you can only be here for 14 days. And so I basically got booted out of there. I went to another place, and as I'm loading up everything in the boat to head across the lake, the guy says, oh, you can't even go up to Susan anymore. And that's where I was headed. And I went back and I sold basically all the rest of my gear and told myself, screw it, I'll go fishing, and I'll go back to the area, the country that I was before, and I'll just make the best of it. And I literally, this was the 1st of July, I literally, within 3 days, had dropped my camera in the water, and it just kind of ruined the trip. Now, why would a camera and filming the process be that important? Well, I went out originally and decided to film this stuff for myself, and I put it out on YouTube, and people seemed to participate in what it was that I had done. And I almost feel now, and that's why I'm doing this update, I almost feel now that I owe it to my friends, to my viewers. The emotion and the honesty and the sincerity that people have expressed to me in the last 6 months since I've started throwing this stuff up on YouTube, it's moving. I mean, every single day in one way or another, I get some kind of an encouraging comment from a complete utter stranger that's moved by what it is that I did. And so I did this 2 months up there, and I fished, and I had a good time, and I caught a lot of fish, and I did enjoy my summer, but it didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And what I was out there to accomplish was cleansing my soul of this last subject and moving forward in my life, and not hiding behind that and not living in fear anymore. Well, once again, came back, sold it all, went back to my sister's, quickly again realized that this is not the most productive place for me, and I trying to figure out where I'm at in the story. Punchline is I was there for about a month, and something had happened between the two of us, me and my sister, that made it clear to me that I did not need to be there. And I found myself in a hotel room. And when you go as deep as I have, and you go as far away from functioning society or what's normal, if you're not actively participating in your own life, you will start to question and doubt. And I was riddled in fear. I was scared to death because everybody that knew, friends and family that knew I'd done this trip, nobody even asked about it. Nobody even wanted to know because, and I've since realized, which puts a smile on my face, when somebody goes and exercises as much honesty and as much humility and as much openness as I have, it scares the shit out of other people. Um, Not because I'm confronting or challenging them, but because my honesty and my level of participation with my own life scares the hell out of people because they can't face themselves. And it's not something that I saw coming. I honestly did not realize that I would ultimately be squeezed out because of my honesty, because of my respect, because of me defending a child, because of me standing up against certain things that were taking place in a family or in a business relationship or a friend relationship. And when anybody opposes what it is that you are doing or not doing, whether it's through confrontation or whether it's through example, um, the last 3 years since my trip, I'm the kind of guy that comes home and says, shit, you guys would not believe what I just did. And I confess and I talk about who I am and how I am and why I do what I do, and it's solely for the purpose of, one, showing people that they can do it themselves, but more importantly, once you make something real, I hope those waves aren't screwing up the volume. Once you make something real and once you put something out there in the room, it's going to make it difficult for you to go and do it again. And I obviously wouldn't be talking about these subjects if I wasn't dissatisfied with myself and what I'd done and why I'd done it. So I quickly found myself being squeezed out again. I quickly found myself being the outcast. Nobody would ask me what I did. Nobody would ask me what's going on. Nobody would participate. And I realized that it was because I was scaring the hell out of them. And I was jeopardizing their happy place. And I was jeopardizing their proverbial happy place. And so I found myself in a hotel room. And I was literally honestly questioning my own sanity. I was concerned that I had gone too far, and my views, my philosophies, my beliefs, the things that I believed in, um, didn't exist in the world anymore. So I put up my stuff on YouTube with no descriptions, no tags. I quite honestly did not want people to find it. I sure as hell didn't want friends and family to find it. I didn't want anybody that knew me to find it. I didn't want future employers to find it. I didn't want to be tagged with a scarlet letter. So I put it out there, no descriptions, no tags. Well, within days, I started getting views, I started getting subscriptions, I started getting comments, and people started encouraging the shit out of me. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was happier than a clam because for the first time in my life, what it was that I had done and what I chose to do and what I had decided to do with my life and find myself, people appreciated it. People respected it. People valued what it is that I was doing. And people had expressed that they wanted to do it themselves and were planning a trip like this themselves. And they were living in fear and they were riddled with guilt. But my experience and my process had encouraged and motivated them to deal with these things themselves. Well, that's what I wanted. That's what I set out to do. That's what I wanted to accomplish, was do this for myself. And in the event that it could benefit and help somebody else, bonus. And it quickly validated me. So let's call that 6 months ago. And, lots of ups and downs, lots of work, lots of unemployment, lots of moving around from here to there, lots of, living in my truck, lots of this and that. But I quickly realized that I wasn't crazy. And the things that I wanted out of this world for me and the people around me, and the way the world was living, and, greed and guilt and fear and remorse and, dishonesty and everything else, people still wanted it the other way. People still wanted to reset. People still wanted to go back. People, especially with the economy the way things are, people were valuing family again. People were valuing honesty. People were not, getting their nails done twice a week and buying Coach purses. And people have been humbled. And to see a guy like me go out and do what it is that I did, I didn't see it coming, but it apparently had a value. And it apparently validated me and vindicated me and made me feel that I wasn't alone. Now, don't have much relationships to speak of when it comes to my immediate friends and family anymore. I've tried, they've tried, and there's just so much distance and so much gap between the two of us that I'm not sure if those are ever going to be better. But what I have learned is that in order for those to ever be better, I'm the one who has to be different. I'm the one who has to make changes. I'm the one who has to accept and forgive. And if I do what's truly right for me, everybody around me is going to in turn benefit. So basically where we're at now is I've got another trip planned this summer, and what I'd like to do is I want to go to the woods, to the part of the country that I was at on the first trip, and I want to catch all my old friend fishes that are hanging out in the fishing holes. I want to cleanse my soul. I want to get these things off my chest and out to the public, and not like the public's waiting for them or they needed them or they deserve them, but this is where this journey has taken me, so I might as well continue down this road. And in all fairness to the viewers, and in all fairness to the people that are commenting, subscribing, and participating, I genuinely feel as though they deserve to know the rest of the story. So this summer, it's May. I'm going to hopefully be able to financially take off June 1st, and we have fighter jets flying overhead. Two of them, quite loud, messing up the audio. But so I'm going to take off this summer. I'm going to probably spend 2 to 4 weeks. Oh, that's bugging me. I'm going to spend 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to talk with that. It's too loud. You guys fly away. Go do your training. Go protect us. So I'm going to do 2 to 4 weeks on my own fishing and preparing myself for the process of moving forward. And then from there, my lyrics and my writing that I've done is very important to me, and I'm very proud of it, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I've decided that in order to get out of life what you want, you got to put in. And I'm finally at that point where I'm prepared to start taking some risks and start taking some leaps. And leap number one is I've got to start putting myself out there. And I've got to start chasing the dreams that are inside of me at any and all costs. So my intention is to spend a month or so up here in the Northwest fishing and having a good old time and cleansing my soul. And then from there, I'm going to make my way to Nashville. I don't want to say that I'm going to Nashville for the purpose of selling songs and doing this and doing that, but I want to be around people that are chasing the same dreams that I am. And at the very least, I want to figure out that if my 300 plus songs that I've written over the last 15 years, I want to find out if they're worth enough. All right, well, my other camera died. I've only got my little GoPro, so I'm not sure how well this is going to work. If it is, and there's a big monster container ship driving by, which is going to make a ton of waves, and it's probably going to screw things up. But point is this summer I am planning on probably a month solitude, going back deep, and trying to cleanse my soul of these two last little things. Not little things, pretty significant things, but and then from there I'm going to start moving on. I'm going to start living my life. I'm going to start trying to do the things that will lead me and get me closer to my goals. And the trip that I have planned this summer is a month up here in the Northwest, and then I'm going to make my way to Nashville. And once again, not for the purpose of, even selling a song, but I just want to be around people that can advise me and can, lend an ear and tell me what it is they honestly think of what it is that I've chosen to do with my life. So with that said, there's something that I've kind of been playing around with. I'm going to make my way through Idaho and Montana and Wyoming for the sake of fish. And then from there, I'm going to make my way down into the south, probably through Texas, and then over into, the South, Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. I'd like to kind of see it all. But I'm really interested in, I've had a lot of people offer to meet me. I've had a lot of people express an interest in meeting me and knowing me and getting to know me and, sitting around a fire and shooting the breeze. And I think it would be kind of an exciting idea to kind of set up some meeting places between here and Nashville, the final destination, and get together with some like-minded people. Get together with some people that, appreciate and understand what it is that I'm doing, and maybe people that want to do it in their own lives, maybe people that just want to learn how to fly fish, maybe people that, just want to, get to know somebody. And, whether it's a day or two or 3 or 4 or who knows. But so if there's anybody out there who
is between here and Nashville and want to hang out, want to go have a beer, want to learn how to fly fish, want to go take a walk up a creek and build some rock cairns and do something fun, get a hold of me. I would absolutely love to not only meet you guys and experience things firsthand, but I would be more than happy to expose other people to my journey and what it is that I'm doing, and fill in any blanks and answer any questions that people might have, because I've been pleasantly surprised that people are genuinely interested in what it is that I'm doing, and it really makes me feel good. And I would love to either pay it forward or bring people on the journey with me or include people in it, whether I'm filming them or not. That's irrelevant. But and then on the other side of the coin is I've got a lot of lyrics. I've written a couple books. I've filmed the original documentary, and I'm planning on doing another one this summer. And the fact that this is unedited and people are watching as much of it as they're watching, it really encourages me and makes me believe in my heart that if this was cut into a feature, that I really think people would enjoy it. I really think if somebody saw just a 2-hour feature of the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs and the process, I really do believe in my heart that people might, it would be a very interesting story. So if you're a film editor, if you're an editor, if you're an agent, if you write and sing your own lyrics, if you're an amazing guitarist, if you suck, if you have dreams like I do and you want to actively participate in the world around you, get a hold of me. Feel free. And anybody and everybody, any comments people have, even the bad ones, there's, it works out to about 3% of the comments that are made are people that think I'm crazy and they're giving me a hard time about spitting or cussing or being a pothead or whatever. I even appreciate those. So please, any and all, do not hesitate to participate. Do not hesitate to comment. Don't hesitate to pick me apart. I'm okay with that, because that's part of the process. And when you put yourself out there, you've got to expect, not everybody's going to agree or think and feel the way you do. So I don't know if this fills in any of the blanks that people wanted, but I hope it did. And I'm looking at this unbelievably massive Celestial Wing Honda cargo container, which is obviously bringing cars from China over here. I'm going to show it to you real quick. I don't know if you can see that bad boy. Where is he? That thing is massive. But like I said, I don't know if this portion of it's going to work. I'm just sitting here on the GoPro. Fortunately, I was able to get some additional cameras and some, good quality HD cameras. Like I said, I used to end all my videos the way I ended all my phone calls with people that knew me, and that was I love you, miss you, bye. But I want to make clear one final thing, that a lot of people say they admire me. A lot of people say they want to do what I'm doing. A lot of people say it's cool. A lot of people say it's awesome. Well, you know what? It's not. It's not awesome to get to the point in your life where you've walked away from so much that the only thing left to do is continue to walk away further. And the trip that you're watching and the trip that you saw 3 years ago, it's not cool. You are literally watching a man at his breaking point, and granted, fighting for his life and trying to connect the dots and become a better person. But take it from me, learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I've done. When shit gets heavy and you're afraid to talk about things and you're afraid to let people know things and you're afraid to face things, those are the exact things you need to face. Those are the exact things that you need to address first and foremost, because if not, you'll bury yourself under a mountain of lies, a mountain of guilt, a mountain of remorse, and you do it long enough and the scales will tip and you will not be able to find your way back. So as much as I appreciate the encouragement that I get, and it makes me proud to touch people's lives in the way that I have, don't get as far as I did. Don't go as far as I have. When you feel inclined to run, don't. When you feel too embarrassed to face a subject, face it, because trust me, not unlike me being afraid of the dark when I was out in the woods, the only thing you can do is take the headlamp off, take the guns off, take the knife off, and walk into the fucking night. That's all you can do. And trust me, the happiness and the peace that you seek is just on the other side of all that pain. So, no, don't go as far as I did. Don't dig a big hole, fill it full of all your pain, and swim around in it for 20 years. But if there's things inside of you that scare you and that hurt you or that anger you, deal with it. Deal with it with the people that are in your life, and if they don't get it, and if they don't appreciate it, and if they don't understand it and respect them, find new people in your life. And no, that doesn't mean that people are replaceable and you just walk around and keep replacing friends and family. But what it does mean is at a certain point in life, you're only left with about 3 or 4 true friends anyway. You're only left with 3 or 4 significant relationships with your family anyway. So don't give your heart and soul to the people that don't appreciate it, and make damn sure that you're always there for the people that do. And I've come so far away that I have nothing left. I do not at all, in any way, shape, or form, have productive relationships with anybody left in my life because of the choices that I've made. And I've been inhibited of creating new relationships with other people because I'm so on this quest and so on this journey. But the relationships I used to have, I devalued them, I ran, I hid, I was too embarrassed, I took the easy route. And trust me, if there's one thing I've learned in this process, is the easy way is not the easy way. The thing that you think is the hardest thing in the world is going to be so much easier than doing what I've done, burying your head in the sand, running and hiding, and finding yourself alone. Because trust me, you don't want to be in my position. I don't have anybody to call. If I need $50, I don't have a phone call to make. And you do not want to be at a point where you're not trusted, you're not believed, you're not respected, you're not appreciated, you're not trusted enough for people to even help you with the simplest things. And if there's one thing that anybody can take from this, with all my heart, I genuinely hope, I'm not out here trying to tell people what to do and how to live their lives. I'm out here showing people the way that I've done it, the mistakes that I've made, the lessons I've learned, and what I'm trying to do in my day-to-day to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that, to me, is enough to sustain me for the rest of my life. Honesty, humility, embarrassment, fear, guilt, doubt, face them. Face them head on, walk straight into the night, and I promise you that life will get easier. Life will get better. You may lose some friends, you may lose some respect, you may lose a job, you may lose this, you may lose that. But I promise you, having those things and being completely alone, riddled with fear and guilt, is no better than having nothing at all and being content and at peace with who you are. So, yes, I'm telling you right now, I found my peace. I found my happy place. The next thing to do is put it into action and do something with it. So once again, if there's anybody out there who digs me, likes me, wants to participate in what I'm doing, get a hold of me. If there's anybody out there who thinks I'm fucking crazy, get a hold of me. If there's anybody out there who, wants to help me sell a book, wants to help me film a doc, wants to help me edit the original one and put it together into a feature, get a hold of me. If there's anybody out there who needs help, get a hold of me. If there's anybody out there who's at the end of their rope and they got a gun in their mouth, get a hold of me. Because I will do everything in my power to help anybody and anyone I can. So, all right, waves are coming in, getting a little loud. After it's all said and done, I'm happy I've done this. I don't know if it's going to do for people what I would hope, meaning connect the dots and fill in the blanks, but please keep viewing. And to everybody out there who's commented and participated up to this point, God, I love every one of you, because it shows me that there's still hope and that people still want to go back. People still want to be better people. And I love that. I appreciate that. I respect that. So if you need help, come find me. If you want to give help, come find me. If you want to get together and go fishing, get a hold of me. All right, y'all. Love you, miss you, bye.